It is Thursday, July 2nd, 2026, and this is The High Road, Logistics and Leadership. I'm Dan Miller, and I'm here to tell you the market doesn't care about your feelings.
I'm Jules Sterling.
I'm Elena Rossi.
And I'm Buck Reynolds. We have a great show for you today.
Look, yesterday we were all over the map, from Ford's AI failure to that EU customs cliff. But today, we've got a heavy day. We're talking a total trade crisis with the USMCA and a massive power move by CMA CGM.
Actually, we need to start with the USMCA. The U.S. officially declined to renew the extension yesterday. We've moved from long-term certainty to a cycle of mandatory annual reviews.
Which is just, it's a nightmare for my retail clients, right? They can't hedge their supply chains if the rules might change every 12 months.
It's like playing a football game where the refs change the rules at every halftime. Bottom line is, we're in a rolling negotiation phase now.
Exactly. USTR Jamieson Greer is basically holding the agreement hostage to fix trade deficits. You see, the agreement stays until 2036, but the predictability is gone.
Here's the deal. I've seen this movie before. When the suits start talking about addressing shortcomings, the guys at the border are the ones who end up waiting in line for 6 hours.
Right? And it's not just the wait. It's the risk of a total trade freeze if the political brinkmanship goes too far.
Speaking of power moves, let's pivot to the ocean side. CMA CGM just dropped $1.4 billion to buy FedEx Supply Chain. That is a massive play for North American dominance.
I mean, it's brilliant. They're using CEVA Logistics to nearly triple their contract logistics footprint here. It's not just an asset grab, it's a strategic integration.
Actually, the most interesting part is the leadership shift. They poached Patrick Mobile from FedEx to run CEVA. That's a surgical move to ensure the transition doesn't bleed money.
Look, Mobile knows where the bodies are buried at FedEx. That's the play. They're buying the infrastructure and the brain that built it.
It's sort of a masterclass in diplomacy, you know? They're not just buying warehouses, they're buying a bridge to the American market.
I mean, the thing is, I don't care who owns the warehouse, as long as the dock workers aren't clueless. But 150 warehouses? That's a lot of roof to maintain.
Buck, you're the only guy who looks at a billion-dollar merger and thinks about the shingles. But look at the rail side. We've got a different kind of problem.
The intermodal surge is real. BNSF is up 15%, CSX up 14%. Shippers are fleeing the road because diesel is hitting nearly $100 a barrel.
Right. When spot rates climb to nearly $3 a mile, rail becomes the only hedge. But the networks are choking. CSX speeds are at a 7-year low.
Well, that's what happens when you try to shove a 10-pound peg in a 5-pound hole. You can't just add volume without adding track, right?
I mean, is it true the Port of Baltimore's double-stack corridor is finally open? That should act as a release valve, right?
It is, but it's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg when the whole system is lagging. BNSF and UP are at 10-month lows for speed.
Before we move on, a quick note from our sponsor. Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering. This show is powered by the stack developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. Support the architect behind the code. Visit our Patreon at patreon.com/neuralnetworkmedia for a free trial and access to our daily briefing PDF.
Now, let's get into the legal weeds. We have to talk about the May 14th earthquake. The Supreme Court's ruling in Montgomery v. Caribe has fundamentally changed broker liability.
I've seen the fallout. Plaintiff attorneys are now shotgunning lawsuits at every major broker they can find, just hoping for a tenuous link to a crash.
Exactly. The FAA shield is shattered. If a broker hires a carrier with a bad safety record and there's an accident, the broker is now on the hook in state court.
Look, that's why C.H. Robinson just won that U-turn case in Florida. They proved they had zero connection to the load. But the fact that they were even targeted? That's the new normal.
Here's the deal. This is why I've always said click to accept is a lie. You can't automate safety. If you don't actually know who's pulling the trigger, you're just gambling with your insurance.
Precisely. The broker shield is gone. Human verification is no longer a best practice, it's a legal necessity.
Now it's time for From the Sleeper Cab, our Thursday segment where we get a real-world gut check on the asphalt. Listen up. I've put 3 million miles on this frame, and if there's one thing I know, it's that a truck in motion is making money. But a truck stopped on a dark shoulder is a sitting duck. We've spent years listening to Silicon Valley tell us that smart sensors and predictive apps would solve the parking shortage. Or you can't park a 53-foot reefer on a smartphone.
He's not wrong about that.
My gut check is simple. If you can't find a spot to shut down, you aren't just a driver anymore. You're a hazard or a target. But finally, someone's actually pouring the mix. Florida just broke ground on a massive expansion along the I-4 corridor. We're talking 917 new parking spaces. They're starting in Sanford with 132 spots. It's a $180 million infra grant. Real concrete, real white paint. That's how you actually fix the problem, not with an app. From the Sleeper Cab, that's a wrap.
All right, let's shift to the dark side. We're seeing a digital renaissance in cargo theft. We're talking ghost carriers and AI-powered social engineering.
It's terrifying. They aren't just stealing electronics anymore. They're targeting GPUs and server racks. One trailer can carry $30 million in AI hardware.
Wait, 30 million? In one load? That's why the average loss per incident is skyrocketing to over $340,000.
Right! And they're using fraudulent credentials to pick up the load and then just vanish. The Cook County Sheriff just found 2 trailers with $1.3 million in copper and data center gear.
I mean, the thing is, these ghost drivers are just playing the system. They know the brokers are rushing to fill loads and aren't checking the paperwork.
It's a systemic failure. When the value of the cargo exceeds the value of the truck and the driver combined, the incentive for organized crime becomes irresistible.
Speaking of irresistible, let's look at the retail side. Kroger just bought Giant Eagle for $1.65 billion. After that Albertsons merger got blocked, they're pivoting to regional dominance.
Look, it's a smart hedge. They're grabbing 197 stores across Ohio, PA, and West Virginia. They're focusing on supply chain density instead of national scale.
Exactly. It's all about the private label control and the logistics of the last mile in those specific corridors. It's a very clean, strategic fit.
I suppose it's a safer bet than the mega mergers, but you still have to integrate the legacy systems, which is where the real risk lives.
I'll tell you what's a real risk. The English language proficiency crackdown. The DOT is threatening to pull millions in funding from California and Washington if they don't start parking drivers who can't speak English.
Right? The Consolidated Appropriations Act made it official. If you can't pass the verbal interview at the scale, you're out of service. Period.
Exactly. I'm all for clear communication, but 500 drivers were parked in 3 days during Operation Safe Drive. That's a lot of stranded freight.
Actually, that leads us to the tech side. NHTSA is now moving to eliminate the requirement for manual brake pedals in fully autonomous vehicles. They're updating FMVSS number 135.
Now hold on. They're ripping out the brake
Only
pedals?
for vehicles designed exclusively for autonomous operation, Buck. The stopping distance requirements still apply, but the hardware mandate is gone.
I don't care if the computer's a genius. If the software glitches at 65 miles per hour, I want a piece of iron I can stomp on. Silicon drivers can't smell a failing wheel bearing.
Fair point. But look at Wabi. They just had a breakthrough with Volvo. Their Wabi driver software operated a new vehicle platform with zero retraining. That's zero-shot generalization.
It's a massive leap. We're moving from gadgets to software-defined trucking. The truck is becoming a computer on wheels.
Well, just make sure that computer knows how to handle a Kansas crosswind before they take the pedals away.
To wrap things up, let's look at the operational mess. We've got a heat dome over Atlanta and New York, and reefer rejection rates are hitting 18.5%. That's brutal.
I mean, it's a nightmare. Carriers are avoiding high-risk loads because the equipment just can't keep up with 100-degree weather.
And we've seen a 20% surge in roadside breakdowns. Tire blowouts and cooling failures are peaking. It's a textbook example of environmental stress on infrastructure.
And on the leadership front, Schneider National just seated Jim Filter as CEO. Mark Rourke is moving to executive chairman. Filter's a 27-year veteran. He knows the orange inside and out.
I'll believe the operational excellence when I see the transit times drop. Until then, it's just a new name on the door.
Always the skeptic. That does it for us today. We covered the death of USMCA certainty, the $1.4 billion FedEx fire sale, and the end of the brake pedal. Keep the shiny side up, folks.
Bye.
Later.
Peace out.
Go get some sleep, driver.